The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 917. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Pre-order a copy of Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, and all major book retailers worldwide. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a phenomenal woman on the show today. She is the founder of Be the Change HR. Super excited to have her on the show today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Leilani Quiray. Leilani, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood today, all things considered. I don't mean to laugh so much. All things considered, I'm feeling really great today. And then a little bit about me. On the professional side, I am the founder and CEO of Be the Change HR. We're a human resources consulting firm for small and mid-market businesses. And we also have a social impact component where we help survivors of trafficking with job readiness skills.
I love that. And thanks for sharing that. I know being from the Philippines, human trafficking is one of the biggest problems that happens there. And it's a shame that it's still happens till this day. And so with the social impact that you do, I think it's really great. So I just wanted to mention that. And Leilani, what's your cultural background?
Yeah, it's so funny. I sometimes feel confused about this question just based on so many factors of the way I was raised and where all of my family has come from. But with that being said, I am half Filipino. My dad's side of the family, they were refugees during World War II. And in 1945, they were brought over on a boat to work for C&H Sugar Company. And so that is why I have a very Hawaiian first name. And my last name is actually Filipino Ilocano. And on the other side, my family were immigrants from Poland. And then the other part was French, Irish, and English. So I'm like European on one side and then Filipino with a Hawaiian flavor on the other.
Thanks for sharing that. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I don't know. For a self-confidence quote, that would be my favorite. I mean, obviously, my company's called Be the Change HR, and I have it tattooed on my body. Not Be the Change HR. Hold on. I have Be the Change You Wish to See in the World tattooed down my back. That's why I called that. And so that's called the company that when I was coming up with a name. And so that's a really big one. But the other ones, they're going to come up as they come up. I am also on top of running a business. I am a alpine climber. I'm a mountaineer. I'm a triathlete, and I dig into a lot of different things that I'll say to myself on the things that I'm doing. And they're always really colorful, like I'm a badass, or something along those lines. So
I love that. I love that, I'm a badass alone is just powerful, right? Especially as women, sometimes it's hard for us to say that to ourselves, but it's a reminder of how amazing we are and what we are capable of doing. Like kind of like you have your own company, you have your own consultancy, but you're also doing Ironman and hiking and doing all these things, which is great. And so I love that as women, we don't have to do one thing, we can do many things if we choose to. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
And as you were saying that, as I was saying that, the mantras that I say to myself in these very like grandiose things that I do, it's almost like chicken and egg sometimes for me. So as I say that to everyone, I'm like, I do Ironman distances and I climb mountains. Right? I do those things. This is like my formula of self-confidence because I am scared, because I know those things are really hard to do, because I know when I go into it, I'm scared. Like I sometimes am like shaking that scared. And I do those things in order to prove to myself that I'm capable of those big feats. And so I think that's a huge piece of my formula to self-confidence is like, pick something tough to do. And I didn't start there, by the way. I started by like going to dinner on my own, not bringing a phone and committing to not reading a book while I'm sitting there by myself, right? That was very scary to me. And then, as I've gone along, I've done other things to build my confidence. And so now it's these big things of like, I'm going to go climb some ice with mainly men. It's mainly like men around me. And halfway up an ice wall, my legs are shaking, and I tell, I have a confident and capable body, and I'm smart, and I know how to do this, and I've been practicing. And so that builds my confidence in doing those big, scary things that started out as small, scary things.
Thanks for sharing that. And yes, those big and scary things can be so daunting, right? Because it's new, it's uncomfortable, but it helps us grow. One of the things I did too was watch a movie by myself, which I was so uncomfortable because it's like, you're by yourself. You're like, you usually go with somebody, whether it's a friend, a sister, or your partner. But, I got used to it after, right? And I do that because I also want to learn to enjoy my own company. And it's important to do that because if you yourself cannot enjoy your own company, how do you expect others to? So, doing the hard, scary things does help our confidence. So thanks for sharing that. And Leilani, what was your life like before you discovered self-confidence?
In my younger years, even speaking my own thoughts or feelings was almost impossible for me to do. I would have this challenge of like I would think something, but it wouldn't come out of my mouth. Right. And this would be in simple situations, like just a regular interaction, but this would also be in relationships. And it was something I really had to work on and find of like being able to speak my mind, being able to stand up for my, I mean, if you know me today, you'd be like, what? Like I'm so outspoken. I have people who message me and go, hey, I want to, what would Leilani do in this situation so I can guide them through it. But in my younger years, I couldn't, I was just like a deer in headlights. I didn't know how to voice what I was thinking or feeling. And so that's one big part of, what it was like prior to this. And then another is just being a woman in general in the environments that we're in and growing, being a woman in general, being a minority woman in general. There is some confusion behind that for me, having a mixed race, being mixed race, and really finding my path in what was right for me, right? Because I have swayed into basing it on what I look like. I've swayed into basing it on how smart I am, right? And oscillating between the two, and then all of a sudden finding my footing of like being just me, right? Because sometimes I can be silly, and I was like, you can't be silly in boardrooms. Now I'm silly in boardrooms. I really don't care, but this is all part of the journey of like, finding my voice and really knowing who I am.
Thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of the women who are also mixed race, they've gone through similar situations where, they didn't feel Asian enough or they didn't feel, the other part of them. And I mean, I have mixed race nieces and nephews, and I always want them to know they belong to both, right? Whether it's showing different foods from both cultures or different books, it's a bonus. They get to be part of two cultures instead of one, and the more the merrier. And so, what was that point in your life where you realized you were more than enough to go out there, especially creating your consultancy, be the change HR, and having that social impact on helping human trafficking victims get a job, I think, which is really great. But what was that aha moment that made you start it?
I mean, it was, I think like many of us, it's born out of a difficult situation, right? It's like not until you get so much agitation do you like say like, I need to freaking change. This is not working out. And so I was working in-house. I was climbing the corporate ladder in HR, and I had a really unhealthy office situation that I was in. And so, and I was so unhealthy that I was sick, like going to the doctor's telling me you really need to take a leave, and my hair is falling out, I have high blood pressure, I can't feel my hands, like that kind of thing, and then me being like, I can take this, it's okay, I can do this. And then finally just having the straw that broke the camel's back, and something that happened at work, and I walked out. Now I've never done that. I've always given at least 1 month's notice, because I was always in a situation where it was like I was the linchpin. And I walked out on a job, and I took time off, and I thought, I don't like, what am I going to do for the next phase? And I had that aha moment of like, I've been in my career for this amount of time. I had a couple of HR consulting firms in my 20s. And now I'm, a couple decades into my career, and I don't want to make other people money anymore. And I wanted to not feel guilty about volunteering. That was another huge thing. I'd ask for maybe 2 hours a month to go teach class to, like people who are survivors of domestic violence. And it'd be like, well, do you have to be gone for that long? I think, oh, this is dumb. So I put all that together. And I thought, I'm just going to start my own business. It's going to be HR and philanthropy under one roof. And then I don't have to listen to anyone anymore. I can make my own money and I can make impact at the same time. That's when I thought of the name because I had the quote on my back tattooed. And I was like, let's call it Be the Change HR. And that was, I'm in my 8th year. So I just never looked back. I think this is funny. I also thought the least stressful thing for me to do next, because I was healing from that, was to start a business. Even though I'm laughing, it actually still is less stress, the weight of running this business, than it ever has been of working for like an unhealthy environment and not being able to make the change in the world that I want to.
I love that story. I think it's really great. Not only is it something that you love to do, it's also something that is really helping, especially victims of human trafficking, restart their life. Because it's not easy, right? Especially going through something that horrific, like the trauma they're going through and not knowing how to pick up the pieces and having someone like you help them find the way. Like, just imagine the impact you've created for those victims. So I just want to say, like, this is amazing. And yes, starting a business is not always easy, right? I mean, sometimes social media paints this photo of like it's all about fancy cars and travel and fancy houses. It's actually late night work, late night, a lot of late nights, or maybe all-nighters. Maybe at that point you probably had to eat ramen because you didn't know when your next paycheck was coming. I mean, it's a lot of ups and downs that nobody ever talks about. But it's also, like you mentioned, it's also rewarding, right? It teaches us, especially confidence in ourselves, confidence in our capability that we can make it regardless of the circumstances. And because of you starting Be the Change HR, what's your life been like now?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, even you saying that last piece, when I started the business, I 100% believed that that was what I was going to do, that it was going to be successful. I said something in like first blog, something like I jumped and I don't need a parachute because this is going to work out, like burn the ships. I will never work for someone else again. And I'm glad I had that kind of confidence and belief in myself and gusto. And it really was behind the why of the business. I wouldn't have made it this far, because anyone who owns a business knows every 5 seconds, something is happening that's catastrophic around us. It's constant noise of how things could possibly fail. And you just have to have this like unwavering belief in what you are doing and how it makes a difference in your little part of the world to make, because if we all do a little part, then it will really make a difference. So since I've launched the business, it's I mean, just look at the last 5 years. It's not easy, but the more I practice, believing in myself, the more I practice whatever modality I'm using at the moment or belief system or what's working for me, the stronger I become. And so even present day with everything that's going on, I'm mostly unbothered, mostly, like still bothers me a little bit, but I'm mostly unbothered by, what's going on in the outside world, because I'm confident in the impact that we're making, in the karma that we're building through what we do, because it's making the world a better place. And then in me being able to hold down the fort and make sure that I can take care of all the people that work here.
Awesome. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's phenomenal. And I know it's just going to keep soaring as the years go by. And Leilani, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Gosh, I think there's so many things out there that, from like these big, what do you call it, like conferences you can go to, and, workshops you can be a part of. But honestly, I think if we put in the work, you can build confidence within yourself just simply by committing to reading books and doing what every book, like Sheena, like the book you wrote, will have something in there to help you on your path. And so you don't have to have a ton of money to go, to a Tony Robbins thing. Like start reading books on confidence, and then the specific segment that you're in business or business building books, and actually do the work in them. And I think you can really, really get far, even if you're on a budget.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for sharing about my book. It's really great to always hear positive feedback about it, how it can relate to others. And I'm just really grateful that I'm able to create a book that can help other people while also creating better representation, especially for Asian women and beyond, because it's so needed now more than ever. And you're right. Personal development doesn't have to be expensive, right? You don't have to spend $5,000 to walk on fire on a Tony Robbins event. You can buy a $28 book like my books, and that can really help you. And the best part is you don't even have to read the book. There's different, you can get the audio version. How you ingest the information is up to you. And they always say leaders are readers. So even just reading one page a day can make a huge difference in your life. So thanks for sharing that. And if our listeners want to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do and check out your work, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, totally. So on all the platforms at Be the Change HR, check us out. I'm doing this fun little tea with Leilani series that I love. And then find me on LinkedIn, LeilaniQuiray. I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Leilani, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Leilani's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Leilani today for taking the time to share her story and her wisdom. So thank you so much.
I'm honored. I'm honored that I'm on here. Thank you.
The honor is mine. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.